there's a lot of projection that happens. People project all these bizarre things at you, despite the fact that they don't know you. I mean, they've never had a conversation with you. They've never emailed with you. They've probably never read your writing. In my case, they've never seen me speak. It's like people have essentially no concept of the kind of person that I am, or my beliefs, or my history, or anything. And yet they draw these usually wildly different conclusions about all of that stuff. And Notch, I think, was in a very similar place with Mojang. And he has obviously a much larger, way more influence than I have, and a much larger fan community and audience. And it is bizarre. I mean, to be an internet celebrity and to have all these people who kind of hang some of their hopes and dreams on you, or again project that towards you, and are sometimes disappointed, when it doesn't kind of go the way that they want it to go. And so his resignation, I think, really kind of resonated with me, because I feel it's I've kind of functioned as a symbol to some people in a way that I never really intended nor really wanted to be. And there's a video that he linked to in his post that I really recommend people watch. It's a video essay about Phil Fish. It's called "This Is Phil Fish" if you search it on YouTube, and it's a fascinating look at. I don't really know. I mean, I played Fez. I never beat Fez. I downloaded and basically played it for a minute. And I don't follow the games industry closely at all, and I never really followed his story that closely outside of just being at the periphery of it and kind of knowing a little bit about it. But it's a really fascinating look at kind of his kind of rise and fall and the kind of gaming community, and or amongst his audience, at least his fans, and the development of Fez and whatnot. And Notch linked to it, kind of talking about how a lot of the kind of the themes from that video were represented, I think, in his own relationship with his community, and how he wanted to kind of avoid that altogether by so by kind of just refusing to play. Although big difference here being I don't have a cool, quote unquote, cool billion or smooth billion. Was it smooth or cool? He said smooth or cool, or the Mojang blog post said smooth or cool billion, or 2 billion. I think was it 2 billion? And so he, I don't have a billion. My bank account has very few zeros on it. So it's a lot easier to write that post when you become a billionaire and buy a $90 million house in the hills, which is, again, great. It's his money. He earned it, Godspeed. But, very different situation there. But again, I think the themes as far as kind of celebrity and, relationship with an audience is somewhat comparable. Will your mom still inherit the site when you die? I don't mind. 3315. So not anymore when I pass off the ownership. So fortunately, you guys will never get to sample mom's cookies. Have you made a profit off 4chan from all the passes, or have they just given money into bills and such? 3316. So again, I plan to write about this more at length, but and it was funny because when Aussie released, one of the stats, he got the row count from the database with passes, and people again interpreted that as to be fair, with very limited information, but they interpreted that kind of without the kind of context, but that number included renewals, and so it wasn't representative of like the total number of passes. But at that time, I think there were 12,000 rows, and so that that was like at that time, I guess it was close to $200,000, but that was spread over about 2 years. And 4chan, again, I'm going to go through this in the blog post because it really is just a case study in bad businesses on the internet. But again, 4chan's total profit after taxes might be last year. I'll say again, I want to release this all real later because it's really interesting. But excuse me, I just burped. But it was like in the low 5 figures, and that again is not for a top 500 website. For example, we served 200 million people last year. We served 6.7 billion page views, and we served about 1 billion ad impressions a month. And so let's just call it 10 billion ad impressions. To make we make a fraction of a cent off of ad impressions. And if 200 million people visited 4chan, let's just say again, 10% of people post, 20 million people posted. If we sell about 6,000 passes in a year, like that is fucking pathetic. Again, people for whatever reason, I've seen people do their own math. Like, oh, well, if 1% of people post, or 10% of people post and 10% buy passes. I mean, that just never happened. Partially because the pass never really represented much value, because I mean, it just does the CAPTCHA, it just bypasses the CAPTCHA. And it turns out a lot of 4chaners don't want to spend. I mean, they resent CAPTCHA and they resent the fact that the pass exists, but they don't feel the need to buy that because they're happy to, versus when it comes to partying with $20 or typing the CAPTCHA, they just choose to type the CAPTCHA. So, but yeah, 4chan is just a really just a remarkably terrible business. And not to say it'll, again, we'll see what my successors do, but I had the luxury of, again, it wasn't a job for me, so I didn't have to really make money off of it, and in order to support myself, because I wasn't. I've done a really, really good job at keeping the operating costs at a bare minimum, and again, not having employees helps with that. I mean, headcount tends to be one of the biggest drivers of operating costs. Just payroll is usually the highest. I've been very frugal with servers and bandwidth, and the architecture that we designed, and buying all of our hardware used off of eBay. All of the upgrades were stuff I got off eBay. Processors that would have cost $1,500 a list or $150 a few years later. So it's a miracle that the site is still alive, given how rough those kind of waters, or how unpredictable it's been financially. It would not have existed if I had again been wasting money and stuff. So I've always been very sensitive to that. So I have not. So I mean, 4chan has been again made a small profit. That money just stays. I mean, again, I separated those finances a long time ago. It just sits in a bank account. Again, it was really useful to have that money back in September, when we had just tens of thousands of dollars in legal expenses. If I had been less frugal or less scrupulous, or just less savvy about that, they could have easily bankrupted the site. But thank God it didn't. And again, I despite what the various websites and conspiracy theorists will say, I more or less have. Which it's funny, because the day that people accept this and believe this, then they'll just make people resent me for what they believe. They believe I'm rich, and then people will just resent me for not being. It's funny to see both sides of this coin, where some people go, oh, you must be rich, fuck you for profiting from 4chan, which again, not true. But then the day that they shift to thinking, oh, well, you're not rich after all. You're a fucking terrible businessman. Ha ha! Look, you loser. You didn't make any money. It's just like, again, I've long come to appreciate that you just can't win, and so I don't try. Again, it's not about winning, but you can't kind of debate unreasonable people who have something in their mind that they want to be the case, and so I just I don't bother anymore. Which I really, again, I really it's a great way to live your life, to not allow strangers to get you riled up, and to base your own self-worth on what a bunch of strangers think about you based on bizarre kind of quote unquote facts. So let's see. Yeah, I'm actually really, the two things I really want to write about, and I'll do this with personal blog posts. One is, again, the financials kind of as a case study. And the other is like really the architecture is really just the constraint of just the financial constraints just bred a lot of really creative kind of solutions on the back end. And 4chan is served off of 5 servers that are all like 4 years. I mean, they've been upgraded, but they're kind of old hardware, really small. It's like a half rack. Our kind of peers in the online community world probably spend millions. I mean, millions of dollars in hosting, whereas we don't spend nearly as much. And I mean, even my old startup, I mean, we spent with Amazon Web Services, and most startups will spend just tens of thousands of dollars off the bat on hosting their product before they have any sort of revenue or any sort of users whatsoever. And 4chan has a shitload of users, and again, I've been able to keep those costs down a lot by just, again, out of necessity and kind of that constraint of just not having the luxury of all these resources to throw at servers and bandwidth. And so the site runs incredibly well given those circumstances. Switch from admin to moderator status on the app. I don't think that's the case because I didn't post this thread. One of the moderators did. Moot, you'll always be a faggot, but we are all faggots here, and you will forever be our favorite faggot. 3361. Thank you so much for the kind words. 3363. When will you go travel again? When will we meet up again? I don't know who you are. I don't know that we've met up before, but in the event that we have met up, feel free to shoot me an email.